very glad to be here with you today. I'm from TV Serial, so this interview will end up on both YouTube and our website. I was astonishing looking at Stationed at Home because, it's like being transported into another planet or something like that. So it was very interesting, all the choices that you make for, characters to interact with each other, because I knew that you choose to film in a location that is called Binghamton.
Binghamton, New York.
Yeah. So I want to know everything, all the project from the start, why you choose this beautiful person to be in it, and how it was, all the construction of it.
Going to another planet, I love that. So initially I was on a bus from New York City to Ithaca, New York.
Yeah.
And we stopped in Binghamton, which is, a little more than halfway. And I got off the bus to stretch my legs, and it was cold and it was winter. And I was listening to Duke Ellington, Dusk by Duke Ellington. And essentially I was looking at this abandoned train station while listening to this music. And immediately the tone of the film just all came together. And it was night and cold and all that. And from there, characters started emerging. And I wrote parts for people that studied at Eliza's acting workshop, the Actors Workshop of Ithaca. Darryle was one of them. Eric Bjarner is another. And they really they're muses of mine, people who just are incredible actors. And I always say, whoever's playing the role has to be irreplaceable. And in this film, it's no different.
Another thing that was fascinating me is the fact that you have used a really specific technique of acting, right? And so for you, Eliza, to play Elaine, that actually is a character that seems to be within the story, but also outside the story, because she is, kind of marginal, but she's in the mood and the melancholy of the story, so she belongs there. And also for Darryle, how to you balance the interacting that you had, because you are very tense and also very chill sometimes.
As a student of Eliza's at the Actors Workshop of Ithaca, you are instructed in the Sanford Meisner technique. And one of Meisner's tenets of living truthfully under imaginary circumstances is kind of the initial approach to almost any work that I'm going to do. The way that Daniel structured the narrative and the inclusion of characters in that narrative really lended itself to accessing them, easily. These are very raw, emotional characters. These are individuals that you feel, that you know in real life, people that you can access immediately. However, one of the largest obstacles with that too is sometimes if something is too familiar, it's difficult to journey there, to make that trip there. Almost like the shortest journey is more difficult than the arduous one. So getting in touch with something so close, and thank you that I'm irreplaceable. He's going to make me cry in the interview, but getting to somewhere so close and really accessing that character, the Meisner technique was perfectly suited for these types of roles where you're allowing emotion, your reaction to the emotion of your environment and other characters, and to really drive.
And subtlety too.
The process.
Yes.
I think the subtlety is another thing that Darryle is just absolutely brilliant at. And the actors in this film just really understand how subtlety and little moments, which Meisner really trains you to, live truthfully in imaginary circumstances and pick up on very, very small minutia. And so the actors understood that wavelength of subtle, and this film is very much about these hidden moments and finding the magic in the mundane.
Yeah, the way that the Meisner technique works really is about tuning into the minutia of human behavior. So that's the foundational part of the technique. So for me, it was definitely a little challenging because she's alone most of the time.
Yeah.
And but the other part of the technique in the third semester is the character work, where you can get these kind of physical adjustments that help you figure out how to tap into a character. So I always make a joke in class that if I do this and it doesn't do anything, then that's a dumb adjustment. But if I do this and then I'm like, oh, hi friend, and suddenly everything changes, that's really different. What Daniel did for me, which really anchored me to this character, is he said she's moving as if she's underwater. And so he gave me this brilliant piece of direction. She's just underwater, and that just rooted me immediately to the character. So even though I didn't have a partner, I had an emotional response to that allowed me to be truthfully in that moment. But I would also piggyback on what they said, is that Daniel has a level of specificity in his direction where you can make picking up a fork interesting. Picking up a fork is really on its face quite boring, but Daniel somehow understands that these moments in life, these little moments, are the things that make it so fascinating.
Yeah.
And so because of the fact that they're Meisner trained actors and Daniel is so good at directing that specificity, it was this wonderful little intersection that I think just made the film and the actors have such an amazing feeling of authenticity that you might not always get in other situations.
Yeah, totally. I was wondering, like the technique you use, like between the editing and the photography as well, like we have very close-ups to the face of the characters, so you actually feel what they are actually feeling when you saw them. And also the fact that you choose to put that in black and white, because I think gives this atmosphere that is like being most of the time in a snowball, like, so I like the fact that you said that is something underwater, because for me it was like, something close, something that doesn't belong to the real world in some, in some shapes. So I would like
time and place of its own.
Well, and the funny thing
exactly.
is, it's everyday people feeling otherworldly, which is so interesting because they're not doing anything otherworldly, but the way in which it's shot and directed and acted makes it feel like this completely different magical world.
And Jackson Jarvis, our absolutely genius DP, has been involved in the film from the very beginning as well. And he just had, when he saw the script, he also saw it in black and white, which was definitely relieving for me that there was no question about color, because he really got on that wavelength as well about just being able to create such a mood with the characters. And he's very much an actor's DP. Actors love working with him because he creates such a calm, beautiful environment.
I can attest.
Yeah,
we really do. Cinematic haiku was maybe the terminology we were talking about last night, with just this visual poetry that's happening, the specificity of the direction, the beauty of the writing. And so we get to have these really beautiful, rhythmically syllabic type of moments visually. It's almost like visual haiku as you're watching.
I haven't heard that yet. That's awesome.
It was a shared
visual
moment last
haiku. I
it was
love
a shared
that.
moment with us last night. It just kind of arrived on us as we were walking, but it's so fitting because our DP is capturing, as you said, the ethereal, almost terrarium-like world and time of its own, visually stunning, but it has a rhythm to it. It has very much so this organic rhythm that matches these like enchanted instances between the characters, which is a reflection of the writing and the specificity of direction. I mean,
and the sound.
The sound is so delicious.
It all works together.
So yummy.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm so excited to have our world premiere, is to hear the film in surround sound. And to see it in the dark room with everyone is just going to be so beautiful.
This is going to be a novel experience.
To see it in theater
to see this in the theater for the first time. I don't think anything's going to compare, sensory-wise. There's nothing like, watching it from a monitor or what you will. It is in no way a comparison to what this is going to feel like tonight. So I'm absolutely excited to just be in that environment and hear and see and take this in.
I think Jack, our sound designer, is an incredible collaborator of mine. When I was writing the film, because of the loneliness of the city, there were so many details about how the sound was going to be a character in the film as well. Because the city's a character. City of Binghamton, and the sound can really echo loneliness. It could. First off, it is quite empty in the winter there. So there are different characters have different sounds, at least by my mind. I think every viewer is gonna maybe take something different away. But for me, there were certain characters had certain sounds. So Jack to me felt kind of like a motorcycle. I don't
Yeah,
know why.
that's
There's
true.
no evidence that he, he was riding a motorcycle. And anytime we could play with dogs barking, like to sort of echo like the three guys around town, they're sort of like these lost dogs, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then, then the owl for Ralph was sort of a really exciting discovery that we had in the sound mix. It's sort of, he's a night owl, quite literally. And so there's something about having an owl in this empty rural space that felt like it really created a tone for the audience to imagine who Ralph is in terms of his soul.
Yeah, and I mean, it was very interesting also the fact that you show, you explore the fact that you are presenting like a small communities, but also with elements that are, kind of from abroad. Like you made a major painting of all these characters, and was very interesting to see that. So how it was for you actually to, approach and build the character in this painting? Like you already, you already said some.
It was really fun. I collaborated with Daniel from start to finish on that, and he really was the one who helped guide where she went. I've always been a firm believer that, particularly when the director has written it, it's really your job to bring their vision to life. It's not your job to just go off and do something nuts. And I have such faith in Daniel's ability to tell a story that I really just talked to him a lot about who she was. I mean, the one thing that I connected with personally, and I'm not going to go into too much about why, but as a mother in my own life, I've experienced a feeling of longing. And so I felt like Elaine had a lot of longing in her. And so I definitely tapped into that feeling, that yearning of longing. I won't say more than that because it might give something away about the film. But it was, I won't lie. I cried. I cried a little.
I think we all
cried. And I saw it from the beginning, I saw so many iterations of it. And the first time I saw it all the way through, I was like, this is so beautiful. Oh my God. But then what's really exciting is hearing from other people who don't have that connection with the film, and they too feel that way. So, when you love something, you think maybe it's just me, and then to see all these other people saying the same thing and echoing the same thing is profound.